Hey boys and girls, so today we're going to be going over Unit 1, Lesson 3, which is a monomial times a monomial. All right, before we get started, the first thing you need to do is just put your name at the top of the page so that way you can earn full credit for all of the work that you are about to show. Okay, so as I look here at the do now, it says simplify the following problems. If I remember from the last few lessons, anytime I see parentheses, I know that represents multiplication. So you can either, do this in your head, you can feel free to use a calculator, whatever you got to do, but it's asking what's 8 times 3? 8 times 3 is 24. Number 2, what's negative 4 times 6? Negative 24. Number 3, what's negative 7 times negative 6? Positive 42. And then number 4, what's negative 3 times 0? Well, anything times 0 is just 0. All right. Before we jump into today's notes, I just want to remind you that yesterday we had gone over adding and subtracting monomials. Today we're going to be looking at multiplying monomials. All right. So I'm just going to push this up a little bit. I'm going to highlight that, because that is the goal for today. Just like the last few lessons, we always have rules whenever we're adding or subtracting or multiplying. So let's look at that for multiplying monomials. The rule says that when you're multiplying two terms, you're going to multiply the coefficients, but you're going to add the powers of like bases. All right, let's talk about what that means for a quick moment. So when it says add the powers, it's really referring to adding the exponents. All right, if I look at these examples down below, the first one we have 3x squared times 4x. All right, let's look at the first step in these directions. The first step says to multiply the coefficients. In case you forgot, coefficients are the numbers in front. So the number in front here is a 3. The number in front here is 4. So I'm looking at my first monomial, and then I'm looking at my second monomial. Well, what is 3 times 4? I have to multiply those. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so that's the first part of my answer. Next, it says that I need to add the powers, which really means I'm adding the exponents of like bases. Well, what's a base? The base would be the variable. So do I have like variables? Well, I do. This has a variable of x, and this has a variable of x. So I'm going to add the exponents that are attached to these x's. Well, this x has an exponent of 2, and this x has an exponent of 1. Well, what's x squared times x to the first? Your answer would have been x to the third, because I'm adding those exponents together. All right, one more. Again, I'm looking, first step says to multiply the coefficients. So the coefficient in front here is negative 6, and the coefficient on my second term is a positive 3. Well, negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. And then last but not least, I want to add the exponents of like variables. Well, this variable is x, and it has an exponent of 1. This variable is x, and it also has an exponent of 1. So I'm going to combine these exponents together. X to the first times x to the first is x to the second. Okay. Now that I multiplied those x's together, I'm just going to cross them out so I don't get confused. Because I see there's more than one variable, I also have a y. Well, y to the third doesn't really pair with anything, so I'm just going to bring it down, and then I'm done with that question. All right? And then, again, one more. So if I look here, my coefficient in front is negative 8. My coefficient in front is negative 2. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. And then again, I have to go back. Well, this base, right, this variable is x. This variable is a y. I'm only adding exponents of like bases. They have to have the same variable, and these guys don't. So I don't combine them, boys and girls. You just bring it down. So this is going to be just the variable x, and this is just the variable y to the fourth, and then I'm done. So I just take those to the bottom and call it a day. All right. So I'm going to just practice with you maybe one or two underneath, and then I'm going to have you try the rest on your own. So let's look at number 1. Number 1 is 5x squared times 3x. So my rules say the first thing I do is multiply the coefficients. So my coefficient on the first term is 5. Coefficient on the second term is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. That's going to be my first answer. Then I go back. Now I want to add the exponents of like terms. Okay, so this variable is x, and this variable is x. So I am going to go ahead and multiply these together. So this is x to the second. I need to look at the exponent. And this is x to the first. Again, I need to look at the exponent. Well, x to the second times x to the first is x to the third. Because again, I'm going to add the exponents of the same variable. All right, let's try one more, maybe number 2. So if I look at number 2, again, the coefficient out front is -4 on the first term, and the coefficient on the second term is 6. Well, -4 times 6 is -24. And then I'm going to go ahead and check. Well, I'm only going to add the exponents of the same variable. Well, this is the variable a, and this is the variable a. Okay, so I can go ahead and combine those. Well, this a has an exponent of 3. This a has an exponent of 4. So a to the third times a to the fourth is a to the 7th, because I add those exponents together. All right, at this point, I want you to try the rest of these questions, which is going to be numbers 3 through 15 by yourself. Please pause the video and then check back when you are done. All right, so here's the answers to numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the first page. I think that 4 and 5 could have been a little bit challenging, so I just want to talk about those for a quick minute. If you look at number 4, the first step says to multiply the coefficients, and when you first check, it doesn't look like there are any. But don't forget, there's always those invisible ones in front. So I know that 1 times 1 is 1, and then when you go back and you combine those exponents of like bases, so both of these are the letter m, I know m to the first times m to the first would have been m to the second power. And then number 5 might have been a little tricky because I have 2 different variables and I'm only really combining one of them. So I can see I have a k in the first term and a k in the second term. So I'm going to combine k to the first times k to the first, and then I'm going to get k to the second. But that variable of j, that base, just comes down for the ride because there are no other j's for it to combine with. All right, and then if I just flip to the back page here, here are our answers for 7 through 15. Feel free to pause the video if you need to check over any of these, if I'm not giving you enough time. Okay. And then last but not least is the closure, which is right underneath. So the closure is always that question that you need to answer on your own. It just tells you if you've understood the goal of today. Did you take away from the notes what you were supposed to? If you answer the question correctly, that answer would be yes. If you have no idea how to answer the question, that would be a time for you to contact us for extra help. All right, so again, I would ask you to pause the video, try that closure on your own, and then check back. So if we look at the closure here, the question says Dominic was given 2 monomials to multiply. Dominic's work is shown below. Then we see his answer. It says state the error that Dominic made when he was multiplying those 2 monomials. So they're telling you that something went wrong, and then you need to say what the correct answer should have been. All right. So as I look over The only mistake that I'm seeing is that the wrong exponent was being used on the variable a. So always remember when you're explaining or answering these questions, you always need to use vocabulary when you're doing that. So I'm being very specific. It's not just the wrong little number, it's the wrong exponent. And it's not on a, or it's not on, letter A, it's on the variable a. And then what should the correct answer have been? Well, it should have been a to the third and not a to the second. Because again, a to the second times a to the first should have been a to the third, right? 2 plus 1 is 3. He forgot to add, so he got the incorrect answer. All right, and then last but not least is always our homework page. Let me just slide that under here. Make sure that you are showing all work on every question. If you are not showing all of your work, you will not receive full credit. And then again, one more reminder, just make sure that you are writing your name at the top of each page before you submit that on Canvas. All right, have a great day, guys.